introdução, a intervenção de Matthew Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Now we start the discussion with Sofia Vaz Pires, with CEO of Vaz Pires Portugal, and Sergio Catalão, the country manager for Nokia. Good afternoon to you both. All this issue of the panel that refers to facilitators that are making 5G become true. And about products, what do you supply to the operators? What are your tools? What are you developing? We want to create connections at Ericsson. The entire concept revolves around how can we make communications and connectivity for people, companies to become connected. And so we are a technology company, and we supply the software, the hardware, and also the network management part. I can give you many examples at the level of people. It's a new way of getting connected, a new way of entertainment. How do people make the most of new experiences? And for businesses, we have all the optimization of processes. How do we make the value chain more intelligent? And always with a view towards sustainability, because 5G, for its innate technology features, is much about more velocity, more capacity, and more efficiency. Thank you for your interesting comments. Sergio Catalão, the same question to you about Nokia. Good afternoon. I'd like to thank APDC for the invitation. It's a privilege and an honor to be at this conference, and more so when it's face-to-face. It was mentioned this morning that there are technology companies in Europe and the world, but I will start with the challenges that the world today is facing. I'll go a little back. When we launched GSM, we launched, our motto at the time was connecting people. At the time, we were trying to solve a problem that was connecting people. The world has now changed. However, the challenges that we face are the challenges of the climate change that is increasing, access to resources which is still unequal, the productivity in the world that continues to decrease. In the last 50 years, we've gone from the new industrial revolution. So technology is fundamental to change the world, to create critical infrastructures, to connect in real time people, assets, machines. It's not just critical communication infrastructure. It's more than a network or a new generation of software. It's a set of disruptive technologies for also IoT, virtual reality, with which we shall digitalize and automate industries by changing the rules of production, by improving the life of people in the cities, managing resources better. And in Nokia, we have technology to solve the world's problems, as we have done in the past. And we are going a little further than 5G. 5G is a technology. But if we think about creating critical infrastructures for communication that are referred to solve the problems of the world, we have to find solutions for deep routing and the cloud. So we have to work with more than 200 customers worldwide. We develop 5G networks, and we have more than 400 companies with digital transformation projects all over the world. Dr. Paula Portas this morning highlighted the fact that Europe is lagging slightly behind in regards investment in new technologies. We look at what has been done in China or the United States and other countries. But in Europe, in the old world, despite the European Union with 27 member states, with apparent so much power, we are lagging behind the Nordic countries. Not all of them are members of the EU. And why do you see this happening in the Nordic countries and not in others? Well, in telecoms systems, it is essential, not only us as industry innovators, as manufacturers, but also our partners, the operators, and also the governments. It's important for all to work together towards capturing investment that may enable this digital transformation. So Ericsson, as market leader, and it's not my words, these are credible sources from the market, from a technological viewpoint, as well as from the leadership in how we develop our products, Frustrator, Gardner, and patent offices. It's clear that our innovation is not only based in Sweden, it's all over the world. And it's good to see this recognition on the commercial side, because the way we're leading this front, we are number one as well in radio access worldwide. And just to give you a few figures, this has been evolving as the networks are being implemented. But as of today, there are 209 networks that are live 5G, out of which 121 belong to Ericsson. And we already have up to 72 contracts signed. So the numbers speak for themselves. But this is also to say that we obviously need an entire ecosystem for innovation and technology under the scope of 5G may become a vehicle for transformation for the industry and society. So it's very important. Governments are an essential part in innovation. And so I believe that we are available as market leaders to work together with our collaborators and also the governments to try to identify projects that may really be a revolution in society. Yes, this has been mentioned in previous panels, the need for public support or public-private partnerships in Portugal or elsewhere. I asked the same question: how come the Nordics have shown more interest than other countries? I think it's a part of resilience. We have existed for 158 years, but we've only had cell phones for 15, and ours was a great brand. And this shows the capacity or capability to adapt as time goes by. Yes, I recall the old-fashioned telephones, but speaking about the different areas and looking at 5G, 5G is an opportunity, a unique opportunity to take part in that which is necessary, which is a new revolution, industrial revolution. We have to be capable of placing economic growth back on track so it continues to grow, the so-called fourth industrial revolution. And I feel that we are essential enablers for this to happen. It's going to help us to bring back to the local markets that which at other times we couldn't. So we were migrating to other locations. And we're going to be able to come back and build factories close to consumers, factories that are more flexible and much simpler to manage, small but related to consumer needs. This is a huge opportunity for Europe if we manage to reindustrialize in the fourth industrial revolution, and that's why 5G is essential. So there's an opportunity out there, and I think that Europe has given clear signs that it's interested, not only in terms of sustainability, but also through the European Green Digital Coalition. So all the citizens of the European Union have done their best, and this culminated in the Lisbon Declaration for digitalization in Europe. And here I echo a sentence by the President of the European Commission: we embrace new technologies, but we still remain rebellious. If it's a 5G ecosystem and is strategic for this transformation and to increase productivity in Europe, it must be accompanied with assistance of solid ethical principles. Whatever may be, what has been in a secret or protected, confidential involvement. So this is a further development that has to do with investment in proximity, in location. What does this mean more specifically? It means that during the third industrial revolution, we started to offshore our productions for the reason of cost. The cost no longer exists, or the cost-benefit ratio has been questioned, and the logistics chains have increased enormously, so transport is no longer a problem. We have the need to go back and have an opportunity for Europe and Portugal to go back to bring back this delocalization of industries to the European states and contribute towards a reindustrialization of Europe, which, in my opinion, is very important, because in order to grow, we have to produce and produce and produce in Europe and Portugal. I'd like to ask you, if we start from the issue of the European Commission's presidency and the importance given to digital transformation and carbon neutrality, which is a goal and an aim of the European Union, with 5G, although the expenditure on energy is greater with 5G, how could we manage this dichotomy of sustainability if there is more energy to be used? Because it has to bear in mind the socio-economic context that we are living with the war in Europe, in the Ukraine, and energy increasing in its prices. Well, I must say that sustainability is also something that Ericsson has always had in its strategy for more than 20 years. We have been pioneers in this respect, and it's not only part of our business plan, but also part of our culture. And as you have said, all these trends, not only the energy crisis, but also in the post-pandemic cycle, how people are connecting to one another and also to their own employers, we see more and more the importance of sustainability. As I said a while ago, given the inherent features of 5G technology, greater speed, more capability, Ericsson has managed to prove that a differentiating element compared to other generations of mobile networks is that we have a boom in the number of connections and increasing connectivity between people, between machines and processes. In truth, we are seeing that the energy value is also reducing. There is another angle to this, the way in which we build our solutions. One of the features of our software, 5G software, is that it enables us to optimize from an energetic viewpoint. I'll give you a very specific example. If a cell in the telecoms network, if there's not much traffic at the time, we can manage the consumption of energy that is given to that cell. Besides, there are mechanisms of artificial intelligence that enable us to have a smart management of the network in understanding what's the traffic profile in a predictive manner and to manage to feed the network in a more efficient manner. And the same way in which the management and maintenance of the networks is carried out, which allows us to reduce the carbon footprint. That's the aim, of course. About sustainability, perhaps there's an example. But first, I'd like to state a problem which relates to the Paris Agreement that we always have to bear in mind. We are injecting too much CO2 to the atmosphere, 50 billion tons a year, 3/4 of which has to do with the production of energy. So these CO2 emissions are due to energy production. And out of that, 80% are fossil fuels. These are the main problems. So one of the solutions is to invest more on alternative energy. We know how difficult it is to manage them from a viewpoint of production and consumption, But here is where digitalization can give us two examples of how to work. We have customers of ours that are very illustrative of this. One is in Vienna, where we are optimizing the distribution and consumption of energy on campus. We have managed to reduce 100 tons. So if there's a potential to reduce 14 million worldwide. And we have a critical communications network with which we perform remote maintenance using drones in some 500 turbines that are offshore at sea. These are two examples in that the impact of technology in sustainability is one of the problems that we have to solve. So regarding the fact that Portugal's geostrategic situation, perhaps Portugal might have an opportunity to explore further, because we already have intercontinental marine cables that cross our territorial waters. Yes, of course, and an interesting part of all of this is that we may speak about Portugal as the old continent, but Portugal is on the westernmost point of the continent, and it's a different way of looking at ourselves. We have to say that we're here at the center between Europe and America. We're here and we can play this role of bridge between continents, and obviously these submarine cables are one example, but 5G may complement this kind of technology. And more so, I think there's an interesting angle, and that's the sea. According to our geographical features, we have a great asset here, which is the sea. There are data from before the pandemic, where the sea was also accounting for 0.7 of the aggregated economic value in our economy, as opposed to 1.9 that was the average of the national economic value. So I think that we'll have to approach several fronts. The sea from the fisheries viewpoint, or we have tourism and sports as well, maritime freight and whatnot. And 5G can be applied to draw more value in economy from the sea. Ericsson has several cases for sea freight, but we have proven that with the implementation of 5G technology, be it with the example of augmented reality that allow the technicians to simulate all the potential operations at the port and to accelerate the ways in which the boats arrive at the port, how the containers are unloaded. This has led us to an 8% reduction in CO2 emissions, and in seeing how the entire process is carried out. I'll leave it here as an item for reflection. It's a word for technical staff, operators, because the sea was our greatest added value in the past. It's a part of our culture and history. And now, through the application of 5G, it could position us for the future. Yes, I remember our exclusive economic zones, both in the air and at sea, have been made the most of. Sergio, I'd like to ask you something else, and this has to do precisely with the dyssynergies that may or not issue from 5G. I try to be positive at all times. I think that 5G is calling us all so no one is left behind. If we look at the impact of the pandemic on students during the pandemic, there were some 1.5 billion students impacted worldwide by the pandemic because they couldn't go to school. They also lacked the conditions in terms of infrastructures, digital applications to carry on. These are things that mark the trajectory, and 5G is critical for communication, and it should manage to connect people, persons. It has to be seen as an opportunity to re-establish ourselves. One of the initial problems was access to resources that is still unequal. I'd like to add a couple of things. I think Portugal may definitely make the most of its geostrategic position to be interesting in the new logistics chains that are going to be more and more digital. And I see an opportunity also for the world of fleets. I wish we could look back at 10 years later to see that there are certain challenges still unresolved. This incredible in the world of digitalization and car manufacturing. And can 5G give more guarantees at this level, or more hope? That's a very good question. We agree in that any advanced society requires a robust telecoms connection, especially in mobile communications supported on 5G, where we are positioning ourselves as transformers of society, of industries, of companies. Of course, the weight of safety is more important than ever, because with these billions of connections that we're going to be fostering, more than ever, it's important for us to protect the permanence of health. And Erics developed the H5 not by stating that security is another layer on the infrastructure, but part of the development of the product and part of the actual network and the way it's managed as well. Allowing for, in this case, for that part of security makes 5G the safest network ever, not from the view of mobile telephone conversations, but for any type of communication that takes place over the internet. To reach this, most of the industry should collaborate. I think you've been active for more than 40 years in telecoms-related associations, and with regards to 5G, we are an active member of the Safety Forum of 3PPs, and we hope that the industry may collaborate in an open and transparent manner for us to define these standards. Because if we protect our networks, we're protecting the end users. Sergio Catalan, do you have a digital solution for this issue? Well, I think that safety in 5G and security has been taken seriously and very seriously. As I just said, it's present in all production and logistics chains. So if someone attempts to launch a new training cycle, the security that 5G gives us. Products, by design, as we say in Nokia, have to agree with the strictest safety standards, because they are strategic assets. Then there is another part of the question. Well, as I said a while ago, we have to have a strategic ecosystem accompanied by good foundations and solid foundations, at least from an ethical point of view. You have 30 seconds for your final comments. Bear in mind that we did start with some delay. I think Ericsson could make a recap after his experience from other geographies and apply his leadership in this effort. But we need all our partners, operators, we need the governments, we need the consumers, the end consumers, and the companies. And the consumers have to know exactly what the benefits are, because they are not realizing them yet. Sergio, well, the market is making a huge effort of investment in infrastructures for 5G and to change the conditions. and have Portugal prepared for this increased productivity. Portugal has to produce if we wish to overcome the European average. But we have to go beyond the fact that 5G may help us produce more in agriculture, but there may be other priorities, and the world of digital shall help us industrialize them better. I insist I'm an optimist, and it said that opportunity or the challenge uses geniuses, and in 10 years' time we'll look back and see Portugal as it was and what the real impact of 5G has been. Thank you very much, Sergio Cagada-Talam, for being with us today.
E continuamos.
Sleep.
And